Mouthbreathers Radio, episode 5, talking about everything film junk related from October 16th through to the 23rd. I'm your announcer, FilmApe, and we are going to be covering such topics as Reed's return to FJ, American movie, 3 reviews on this episode, so it's a chunky episode, as well as a whole lot more. So keep the dial attuned right here to Mouthbreathers Radio. You know him, you love him, everybody's favorite film junk fan. It's Drew Nugent.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mouthbreathers Radio. I'm excited to be here. We've got a big show today. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. But yeah, do you want to get right into it?
Let's do it.
Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Launch commit. Liftoff. We have liftoff.
Okay, Houston, roll complete. Roger, roll complete.
So I think our first talking point is Reed returning to the show. That's number 5. And they made it sound like he hadn't been on in a long time, but we were talking just before this, and I think his last appearance was on Bullet Train, so that actually wasn't too long ago.
Yeah, episode 859 that came out August 16th, 2022.
Nice. And how do you feel about his latest appearances? Do you think he's been up to snuff?
Oh, I think he was up to his old hijinks right off the bat. This clip here, I think this was like 2 minutes in, and already he was off the rails.
At Star Trek conventions, I've seen George Takei and Gates McFadden.
You saw George Takei?
Up close.
He decayed in front of your eyes?
Got his autograph. Oh, wait. Oh, I didn't get his autograph. I skipped his... I just taken picture. I didn't want to line up for George Takei's autograph. I was too... I had already gotten it before. Not personalized, but like in his autobiography.
Yeah.
So I just skipped the lineup. But I went up and took photos up close. So.
Well, it sounds like, so do you regret that? Is that like one of the big regrets of your life that you didn't get his autograph, or are you okay with that?
No, I do have it in a book, in his auto, but it's not personalized.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough.
And he's still alive, so I still have a chance to get a personalized autograph from him.
So yeah, within 5 minutes, already referencing Star Trek, already annoying Jay enough that he beamed out, and it just went on from there. The only downside to having Reed on this episode was I could not keep up with all the clips that I thought we should play on today's episode of Mouthbreather Radio.
Yeah, there's tons of funny stuff, but one thing I did want to make note of is that I've always been a big Reed fan, going back to the very beginning. But lately, I'm not saying that he's any better or worse, but just lately I've been feeling maybe how some people feel when they just, can't take the derailment that happens every time he's on the show.
Interesting.
But,
do you think if he was
fun to have him on, though?
If he was on more often, do you think you'd just be more used to it? So then because he's been more sporadic, what's the reason? Why the change?
I don't know. Maybe it's because I almost feel like he's become more scatterbrained, or just wanting to talk about just random, I don't know. He has always been like that, but it just becomes I feel like it's been more chaotic lately. So I don't know how to explain
how
it. But
old
maybe
do you think?
More often.
How old do you think he is now?
Reed,
he's got to be in his 60s, eh?
I think I do have his birthday in my brain somewhere, because I know his birthday is a day before mine, okay. So that made it notable to me. But I think he might have been born in 1963, so that's just my guess. And And the only reason I know that is because I looked at his Facebook way back when, had him as a friend. And so that would make him 59.
Holy smokes. I mean, I would say, did you watch the video clip from episode 868 that was on the Patreon? Did you see it?
Not yet. I did see that it went up, and that was the one where they're talking about the hand gestures, right?
Exactly. And I mean,
Yeah.
Reed doesn't look like he's aged a day since I first started listening and back in '07. So I mean,
No, he really doesn't. Yeah.
he's whatever he's doing, which I mean, probably eating garbage food and staying up too late and not living with heat. I mean, it seems like that's the way to live your life.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it is interesting. I mean, he hasn't seemed to age much at all since he's been on the show, and I think the guys have even referenced that. But if you go to Cooking with Jerry, though, he used to look pretty young back in the day. It's crazy that Cooking with Jerry was just filmed in 1989. It's a long time ago.
that is crazy. One thing that's been messaged on the Discord and I think on the Patreon with getting the gripes is some people want Cantankerous to come back. What would your thoughts be if A, would you be jazzed, and B, do you think it would ever come back?
I mean, I would obviously be jazzed for it. I'm always up. I love podcasts that are just kind of like random discussion like that. Those are my favorite things about that show. And Fishing with Tom was cool for the same reason. But Cantankerous was even better just because I think the dynamic between Reed and Jay is just super interesting. But yeah, I'd love to have it back. But honestly, I don't think it'll ever happen. I just don't see them carving out the time for that.
Like Cantankerous, for anyone that hasn't listened to it, check it out because it's only I think like 10 episodes total, 12 episodes. There's a lost episode in there, like it never aired. But that is like one of some of the rawest podcasting that I've like. There were a couple where they get into like Reed being a bad friend basically, and it's like it's real, and I like it's like to the point where it's like awkward to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was younger, like I don't know if I just wasn't used to listening to stuff like that, but I remember like commenting and being like, "This episode is like really dark," and like Reed would reply and be like, "I didn't think of it as dark," but even now I look back on it and it's not that dark, but I just think I wasn't used to like such raw discussions.
I think it's not, yeah, like dark might not be the right word, but it kind of fits too, just simply because of how like it's not, there's nothing being put on. There's like a few times in Cantankerous where it's legitimately like they're having a real argument and we're listening to it, and there's like
Well, there was
gripes
one specific one. Yeah, there was one specific one where they were talking about. I think it might be the one you're referring to, when Reed didn't go to Jay's premiere for Beauty Day, and that was a little rough.
Which, for those that don't know, Beauty Day premiered at MoMA in New York City, and they had like everyone kind of got organized for it, and then Reed was kind of like going back and forth whether or not he was going to go, and really it seems like it hurt Jay's feelings a little bit, at least, even though he doesn't really admit it. But I know that it kind of threw a wrench into like a few of their plans, because a lot of the FJ people wanted to go or couldn't, like, so it was a big deal. But Jerry was just kind of humming and hawing, and like, again, seek it out, listen to all of Cantankerous so you can appreciate it. Like that's some real stuff.
Yeah, and that's some of my favorite, like, it hits at just like stuff I love about media in general, like just capturing something completely real, completely raw. There's not a lot of stuff like that out there that you can find. So, yeah, it's I think every Film Drunk fan should listen to that.
So why do you think they had Reed on this episode? And why do you think he went to the Clerks 3 screening? Because they said that he hadn't seen the first or second Clerks. So
yeah. Well, though, I was trying to figure that out. I was thinking, like, did they originally just have him on because they were like, we're reviewing Decision to Leave, so we're gonna have Reed on for the Korean film? But then he participated in all of that stuff. Like, I'm very surprised that he actually went to the Clerks 3 screening, especially since he hadn't seen the previous two. And he actually watched, because there's been other, episodes where he hasn't reviewed the movies or only reviews one of them. But he did watch all 3 of the movies this week and participated in all the discussions. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I kind of left me scratching my head because he says he's seen Halloween Kills, but he hasn't seen the first Halloween either. So it's just like, it's possible, very Reed. And again, I'm glad that he was on the show. I probably could have him on every week. That's how much I love Reed, and I love just what he does and the way he does it. But I will say that having gaps makes me appreciate it more. So it's probably better. And then we know that Reed's just in his house chilling and his mind's running and it has nowhere to go. So he's just kind of building up stuff. And again, we'll maybe this is a good time to jump into it. The public urination story. This is a super long clip, but I know that anyone that listened to the episode is going to want to hear this again. So this is about 5 minutes of Reed talking about public urination.
Oh, well, I thought when we were at the Clerks 3 Q&A and afterwards, and Jay departed after we were going to go to the outhouses and go for a whiz. I thought it'd be interesting to tell what happened afterwards since Jay wasn't there. So he assumed that we were able to go to the potty in the outhouses, but that was not the case, Jay, because these row of outhouses were locked. I did not know. I just assumed they would be open because I've seen outhouses near my house where people at that excavation sites, and they've always been open when I pass by on my bike for me to go inside. And
yeah, who knew you could lock an outhouse? That's crazy.
But they use chintzy padlocks. I'm sure Frank could have busted open with his rock.
They weren't that chintzy.
What rules, you sons of bitches?
So they were locked, and I had missed my opportunity to go right after the show because there was a lineup to the only men's washroom, and I didn't want to keep the guys waiting. And I remembered on our way in seeing the outhouses, even though Frank did not remember at all seeing them, but we passed by them.
No, I didn't see them when we walked by them. And then
I
pissed outside.
Because Frank, before the show, Frank ended up whizzing outside the Queen Elizabeth Theater. And I had the decency to wait until, to get into the theater and go when we were there in the theater. But on the way out, when I had to go and they were locked, we had a predicament. So, Jay, what do you think? What would be the logical thing to do? If you were there, what would you have recommended to us to do? Would you have told me to go whiz outside? Because Frank ended up whizzing outside again after the show.
It depends on how bad you have to go.
I thought I could hold it. I was a bit surprised because it was a long time for me to hold a whiz.
To be fair, you were going to whiz outside, but you didn't because you saw people around. It wasn't the idea of whizzing outside. It was that there was people to observe you whizzing outside. That was the problem.
Oh, but the one time in the parking lot where you suggested whizzing, I
saw an area what about way back there?
I saw a woman parking attendant start walking across. That's why I changed my mind.
I just saw a guy over by the basketball net, but you're in the shadows, bud. No one cares.
I still remember reading about this, going for a whiz outside, and you can actually be charged and your name put on a child pedophile list if you get caught whizzing outdoors.
Child pedophile?
Yeah. Because I still remember the time at the library.
That's an oxymoron.
Child, what? It is? Oh, because I still remember the time at the library when I whizzed behind the trash bins.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got a lot of experience whizzing outside. So, I mean, I don't know why it was such a problem for you.
Well, that's the only time. I took a chance then. And after I read about I don't, even now, I know all the time when we used to do a drive, I don't know is it not as bad as if a kid whizzes outside, under 18?
No, I
they're
believe
more lenient with kids.
that kid will also be put on a child pedophile registry.
Because I remember all the time, like, you know, with the dad and with the family, and you know, stopping at the side of the road on the highway and whizzing. I mean, do people still do that? I imagine so, right?
People do still whiz.
And is that not against the law?
I saw someone holding their kid up like this as they were taking a dump on the side of the highway.
Look, I don't like make a
I was
habit.
driving down DuPont in Toronto, and there was a man in a wheelchair, and he was parked right in front of one of those electrical boxes outside of Loblaws, and he was just sitting back in his wheelchair and pissing right onto the box. It was amazing.
I was discreet. I hid behind a tree in the darkness for the most part, out of public view, because I had to go really bad. It's not like I make a habit of doing this, but, you know, in terms of, you know, animals are pissing everywhere all the time. There's piss everywhere in our world.
Yeah, but there are laws, Frank. That's the thing that I'm worried about.
Up yours, woke moralists.
And, yeah, I guess there is a bit of trepidation, but what am I going to do? Piss my pants and sit beside you guys for the whole movie or in the car?
I mean, I guess Frank broke the law twice that night.
I guess I did.
So, like, Sean
3 times, maybe more if you count all the times I sped when I was driving there and back.
So, again, a very personal story there, shared willy-nilly by Frankie and Reed. What do you think of public urination, Drew?
Well, I found it interesting. Reed was talking about the idea of being put on a child sex offender list, but I was looking this up because there's the famous instance that a lot of people talk about in the movie Horrible Bosses, where the character pisses in a playground, he becomes a sex offender. And I thought that you would only become a sex offender if something like that happened. You were peeing in a playground, but I looked it up, and there actually are 15 states, and Texas is one of them that I live in, where you can become a sex offender just for, you know, pissing in public. So
Jeez.
You wouldn't be put specifically as a child pedophile, as Reed puts it, but you could be registered as a sex offender because indecent exposure. So
That's pretty harsh. As far as I know, like Canadian law, you have to make a serious attempt to conceal yourself, and as long as that's done, then I think you're covered. But I'm not.
That should be.
I'm not entirely sure. That being said, I mean, literally around these parts of Canada, you'll just be driving down the road and you'll see things that you don't want to see, and it's like there's no effort to conceal anything. Literally, one time I was working and I was talking to this old guy, and he's like standing right beside me, and then I like glance over and he's like pants are open and he's just like urinating right there, and I was just like, okay. Another thing with this story, I actually know the reason why porta potties, or portables as the industry slang calls them, why portables are locked. Drew, do you have any guesses?
I don't have any guesses.
Well, the number one reason would be vandalism, but number two, depending on the area that they're in, and I'm assuming if it was in Toronto, and it's like a very unfortunate fact, but people will steal the hand sanitizer to drink it because of the alcohol content in it. So it's this like horrible thing to have to know that. And again, that's industry. That's an industry secret. So
when do they decide to lock and unlock them? Like, is it just like only during certain hours?
Yeah, it seems like it's like site specific. It's also company specific, but all the companies that I know that do it and run portable businesses, pretty much if they're in a downtown area, they're going to lock them, and then the whatever crew super would just have keys to open them during the day and then lock them. But yeah, having spent 2 glorious days working in the portable industry, I found multiple that the hand sanitizer had been busted open and the hand sanitizer had been stolen. So a lot of times they'll have a lock on the door, and then they might actually lock the hand sanitizer as well. So that's, again, industry secrets there for you, Drew.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. Drinking hand sanitizer is beyond even the master, where Freddie Quell is drinking all kinds of crazy things.
So we have Reed to thank for all these wonderful stories. And by chance, if you have not listened to episode 868, listen to it. It's one of the greats, in my opinion.
For sure. And one thing I wanted to say, I found it interesting that they kept referring to the porta potties as outhouses. Is that a Canadian thing?
Yeah, I guess. Again, like, in the industry, you always want to make things sound fancy, so referring to them as portables is like the most kind of nice way of referring to it. But yeah, outhouses would be like Wild West. That's like what you would refer to it as, like an outhouse.
Well, you would think that's what we would call it down here in Texas, but I've only heard it referred to out here as porta potties.
I find it so awkward when a grown person says the word potty.
I would never say it.
It's a horrible word. Yeah. It's like, that's why portables, again, industry secrets right there. Portables is a way to, if you want to sound cool, to refer to them as that. So again, Reed, thank you for all that you gave us. Tons of great stories on it, on this episode, and more Reed in a few weeks.
For sure. Yeah.
Number 4 here, we've got unfortunate news of Mike Shank from American Movie passing away, and Jay tweeted about it, and as a result, well, we'll just let him tell you what happened.
R.I.P. Mike Shank, right? We got to mention that.
That's why I watched it, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I tweeted about that, got picked up pretty big, got quoted in Newsweek about the passing of Mike Shank.
Really?
Yeah, big time.
Newsweek? What?
Yeah.
Nice.
Mia
I have to say, I was in the washroom.
Elijah Wood.
Drew, what are your thoughts on Jay making sure that his press release got out there to the world, and as a result, he got some cred from Mike Shank's passing? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know that he was intentionally trying to get, picked up, but what I'm guessing happened is that Newsweek heard about this, started scouring the internet for people talking about it. There probably weren't that many people talking about it, but a few. And then I guess they saw Jay, they saw on his profile that said filmmaker, and they were like, we'll throw this in there. But I think it's nice because, Jay has been one of the biggest champions of American Movie. I do hear a lot of people talking about it, but not like a huge amount. And, I definitely discovered the film because of Jay. So, yeah. So I think it's nice and it's fitting.
I also discovered the film because of Film Junk, and so we thank Film Junk for bringing American Movie into our lives. Drew, when was the last time you watched American Movie?
I think last year. It's a movie I watch a lot. I didn't rewatch it, in honor of this. Although, rest in peace, Mike Shank. It's definitely sad they died. From what I could tell, I think I was trying to see what happened, but I think he just had some sort of illness. But yeah, it's an amazing movie. It's in my top 100. It's very high up in my top 100. And yeah, I definitely should rewatch it again soon because it's a very easy watch.
Yeah, it sounds like Mike, since the film, has been a big part of addiction recovery in his neck of the woods. So he was doing good work. And I guess his last tweet, which was earlier this year, was just noting how long he'd been sober for. So good for him. And again, I'd say check out American Movie. It rocks. It's been 10 years since I watched it last. I looked it up on Letterboxd. I haven't watched it since 2012. And from there, I went to look for the Blu-ray. It's stupid expensive in Canada. It's like $60. And so then crazy. I'm like, will I ever own this on Blu-ray? I don't know. Have you ever owned it?
Go ahead. I haven't. I regret this. I'll just admit to this. But I sold a lot of my physical collection. Pretty much all of it, aside from my copies of Jay Cheel films. Those are the only things I really have left. But I did have a copy of American Movie on DVD that was rented from Blockbuster in like 2009 and was never returned. And so that was in my collection.
So wait, you stole it from Blockbuster?
Well, I rented in 2009 and I sold it in like 2020 once Blockbuster had been long gone. But yeah.
So explain to me this process. You rented it, so you just had like a rental case for it then? So no cover
Well, it was an
or
actual
anything?
case. Like, it was a real case with like the real, insert. So it looked like it looked completely legit. Yeah.
But
I even think it was the real copy. It wasn't like a rental copy or anything.
But you actually rented it?
Yeah.
And then you just never went back to that Blockbuster ever again?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think it was my dad that rented it, so I don't know what happened there.
That's amazing. I mean, as much as it's not a good thing to do morally, I certainly regretted not just going to Blockbuster, renting a ton of the like rare stuff and then not returning it, because it sounds like they didn't go after anybody once they like kind of went out of business. So
No, they definitely didn't go back. I mean, there's a couple things I got from Blockbuster like that. I mean, I wasn't intentionally doing it. It was just like, for some reason, I didn't return these things.
you're a bad boy. I think Reed might have some problems with this.
I mean, I think all they do is charge a fine. Like, there might have been something charged to a credit card or something.
Well, they used to not. They did away with late fees near the end of their run. They got rid of late fees, and then that was apparently the reason that a lot of people thought they went out of business, which it wasn't. But yeah, they were saying, oh, because they got rid of late fees. So I mean, good for you for rescuing a great film like American Movie and having it in your collection until you had to let it go. Do you have a favorite part of American Movie?
I mean, the Uncle Bill stuff is obviously amazing. Like Jay mentioned when he talked about it, the Uncle Bill's little poem at the end. I forget exactly what he says, but it's funny. Well, not funny, but it's also touching. But yeah, just all the relationship between Mark and Uncle Bill is like the real heart of it, I think. And yeah, it's a great movie. And I thought it was funny because Frank was saying that Coven like looked great, like but I don't know that I necessarily agree. I've tried to watch Coven and I don't think it's that good, but I applaud him for the effort.
Every time I get a new credit card, like a renewed credit card or whatever, and I get sent to it in the mail. So I mean, I guess every 5 years or whatever. I always think when Mark is going through his mail on camera and he gets a new credit card, and he's like, "Oh, this is so sick," and you just know it's like this dude is just like living paycheck to paycheck. It's like this credit card is gonna let him do a few more minutes of Coven, and then he's good to go. You know what I mean? Like that scene is really memorable to me.
One thing that makes me emotional about that movie is like more so lately is just like his drive to make these films, which I can obviously relate to. I've tried to make many movies, but one thing that's like interesting is just like how lucky I feel like he is to have in his life, like all these people that are willing to help him out like this. Like everybody, I mean, obviously we don't see, there could be tons of behind the scenes drama that's not being shown, but like for the most part, it feels like everyone's just like all in on like helping this guy out and getting his movie made. And it's nice to see.
Yeah, definitely. Like that's one of the charming parts of it. And as crazy as he can be, you know that he at least has a way with people where they want to like follow him and they're willing to help him see his like crazy vision.
Well, he's got that director drive that you need if you're going to be a director, where you're like, rallying the troops, and like it's kind of like a weird form of like mind control that you're doing, where you're convincing these people that this needs to be made.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing movie, and everybody should watch it. But I think that takes us to our next point, which is number 3 and that's the fact that this was a very review heavy show. There was 3 reviews: Clerks 3, Halloween Ends, and Decision to Leave. And my main point here was like, do you like the review heavy episodes?
Yeah, it's nice when I've seen everything. I hadn't seen Clerks 3 or Decision to Leave, and so I skipped at least Decision to Leave. Clerks 3, I didn't care about spoilers for it, so I had fun listening to that review. But I think it's nice to have like a 3-hour plus episode. I love that. Like that's film junk to me, is like seeing an episode and being like, holy smokes, like there's a lot of content here, and within 3 hours there's going to be some funny disagreements, there's going to be some funny stories, there's going to be personal things shared. So yeah, a review heavy show, I'm into it.
Yeah, same here, and it's always great to have the long shows. The only film I hadn't seen was Decision to Leave, but I still did listen to the non-spoiler review. I didn't listen to the spoiler review. But yeah, I do want to see that eventually.
Where is it even out wide? Like I haven't seen it listed anywhere.
Neither have I, really. I didn't know how they watched it. There might have been another screener situation, but which is, I mean, cool that they're getting those. But I'm not totally sure. I would assume that that's how they got it, because I don't think Frank mentioned anything of going to some art house to see this. And but yeah.
Have they ever? How many episodes or how many movies have they ever crammed into a single episode where official reviews? It was because like this, the title is Film Junk Podcast episode 868, Halloween Ends plus Clerks 3 plus Decision to Leave. Have they ever done more than 3 main reviews?
The only one I can think of is way back in like 2009, where they went to the drive-in, and the drive-in was doing a quadruple bill. And I actually just listened to this episode recently again, so I know the ones they reviewed. It was Extract, Gamer, Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and then The Perfect Getaway. And those are all main reviews. So
that's a quadruple bill to remember.
Yeah, they were there till, I think they said until like 3 or 4 in the morning, so which is pretty insane.
And for new FJ listeners, you can actually see video of that if you go to YouTube and just put in Film Junk Drive-In. I think it would come up. They actually shot some video at the drive-in there, so you can actually see that weekend, which that would have been a ton of fun, I think, to have sat through that.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been awesome. And I had always dreamed of, like, if I ever went to Canada, I would go to that drive-in and, like, do my own little Film Junk tour. But sadly, when I talked to Jay last, or one of the times I talked to Jay recently, he was saying that they closed, like, because there had always been rumors. They'd been talking about the drive-in shutting down, but he said it was pretty much like a done deal. So, yeah, that's sad.
So would you be ever interested in, like, a 4 or 5 main review episode? Do you think that would be too much? Do you think 3 is like the right number?
I think 4 is probably the max. Like, I don't think I should ever go beyond 4. I think at 5 it just starts getting ridiculous. But yeah, I think 3
as long as everyone there has seen the movies, the conversation will be good, right? Like, it's just not fun if like just 2 people have seen a certain one of the main reviews. Like, for the most part, I think unless everybody has seen the movie, it shouldn't count as a main review, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that should be the criteria. I don't know that they've stuck to that all the time, but I definitely think, and I think in this case they did. Everybody that was reviewing did see all 3 of those movies, so that was good. But even Reed, which was interesting. And yeah, I think that should be the criteria, that if it's going to be a main review, they should have all seen it. But yeah, for sure.
Do you ever see Nugentino Cinema? Do you ever see it going to review more than one film in an episode?
Well, like, I'd like to do like a double bill or something. I could see that being interesting. Like having some sort of thematic double feature. But I don't know that I would do anything more than 2 in one single video.
But yeah,
but it could be interesting.
I think keep Film Junks running long. The longer, the better. Not to say I dislike the short episodes, but if I see a runtime under 2 hours, I know there's probably not going to be any like crazy long-winded stories, and there's not going to be any big rants, and there's not going to be arguments. So I see that runtime, and I knew that Halloween Ends would result in some good conversation. And yeah, this episode, I think we've been blessed by the FJ universe to have had some great episodes in the last month, and I hope they keep on coming.
For sure.
So let's jump into specifically talking about the Clerks 3 review here, and we have a clip. Let's take a listen.
I can tell you, Film Junk audience, going to the movies with Film Junk guys is like going to a movie with Vulcans. Like totally emotionless, no laughing, no nothing.
Well, it really depends on the movie. Now you know what it's like hanging out with you. We should mention Frank.
Here we go.
Frank gave this movie a standing ovation.
So did Sean and Jerry.
I managed to.
I gave it a mock standing ovation.
Well, that joke definitely came up.
We definitely were the last people to stand up in the room.
And my ass was numb. I'm like, I have to stand up. This feels like.
I did manage to get not a great picture, but I did get a picture of Frank as he was standing up, so maybe we can throw that on.
At some level, it also felt disrespectful once everyone else was. Like, it felt like more of a statement to not stand, which, I have to say, Jay had the courage to make a statement. I did not have that courage.
I mean, mainly so I could get the picture of you standing.
Wouldn't you be able to get a better picture while you're standing? But your perspective your perspective had to indicate I didn't stand.
No, the perspective had to indicate that you were standing.
Give me a hero drop
sitting.
for this guy. I'm not standing for this film.
Drew, right off the bat, what are your thoughts on giving a movie a standing ovation?
Well, I think I agree mostly with what Frank was saying. It's more sort of disrespectful when everyone else is doing it to not do it. I would probably, if I saw everyone doing it, I'd probably do it. How do you feel on it?
So it's just like a peer pressure thing to you more than like actually feeling the desire to give a standing ovation?
I mean, pretty much. I mean, if that's sad, then, it is what it is. But I don't want to be the one guy who's just like defiantly sitting down with my arms crossed and being like, I'm not clapping for you.
Man, I just got like a wave of thought and embarrassment because I was at Blind Boys of Alabama concert in like a theater, like a nice one. And at that time, Blind Boys Alabama would one of them would walk out into the crowd. They'd have like someone guiding them. And so I stood up and I was like, woo. And nobody else stood up. And I was and then I was up and I was like, I'm not sitting down. Everyone should be standing. I'm going to inspire. Nobody stood up. And the person that I was with was so embarrassed. And they were like, sit down. You're blocking, you're blocking everyone's view. So I guess I have the opposite thing where I stood up and nobody else stood up. I mean, standing ovation is just literally everyone being we had a group experience basically, and I think Clerks 3, you're standing up because you're we all love Kevin Smith. You're not standing up because of the quality of Clerks 3.
No, for sure. I mean, it's obviously just for Kevin Smith, but
and getting into the 10-minute standing ovation, those are just it's just stupid.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's literally just make sure all the cast and crew stand up for this amount of time so that there can be a headline that we set the world record for longest standing ovation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're supposed to be wow, I can't believe they clapped for 40 minutes straight, as if that means anything. They forced themselves to do that.
So I think I would be in line at least with the FJ guys in regards to being the last one standing up. But similar to you, I think I would probably buckle to the peer pressure of just everybody else is doing it, so might as well.
Well, yeah, I'd probably still be one of the last ones too. But in situations where I don't want to clap, but everyone else is clapping, I usually do like a light golf clap where like nobody can even hear me, but I'm just like going like this.
Like Steve McQueen at the Oscars. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like Steve McQueen, director of Hunger, because when 12 Years a Slave was nominated, he was like ticked he didn't get credited for his writing on the film. So when the writer won the Academy Award, he's doing this like really fake clap. Look it up, everyone. Look it up. It's amazing. But I can see what you're saying. Have you ever seen something or experienced something where as soon as it was over, you were just like first reaction was I got to jump up and applaud? Has that ever happened to you?
I don't know if that's ever been a genuine reaction of mine. I've had a friend who will like sort of mockingly, like he's tried to like start standing ovations for things like after movies. It's never worked, but
like just at like random screening kind of thing.
Yeah, like we just see a movie in a multiplex, and at the end he stands up and he's like, "Yeah," and then like it's just really awkward. It's like I just saw Black Adam. And I'm assuming, do you care about spoilers for that movie? I don't think you do.
I do not. Spoilers for Black Adam coming up.
Okay, so I'm warning everyone for spoilers for Black Adam. But obviously, I didn't love the movie. It was like a 2.5, and even that's generous. I mean, there was just some fun I had, but it's still like a ridiculous, dumb movie. But the reason I bring this up is because at the end, there's a post-credit scene where Black Adam meets Superman. And whatever. But then people were like ridiculously cheering, like just cheering obnoxiously loud for this.
So how many people were left in your like screening?
Well, I think because with the comic book movies, like it seems like at this point, like everyone stays at least through, the opening, or not the opening, but like, the animated credit sequence, you know what I mean? And then luckily we didn't have to stay through the entire credits. So it was like after that, and then pretty much like 90% of the theater was still there.
Yeah, I mean, again, it has way less to do with like, oh, we love what we're seeing on screen, and more to be like, we are like a group and we know this stuff. You know what I mean? Like fandom's like its whole other thing. I don't even like to like touch it. We can get into it, I guess, with Halloween Ends a little bit, but hearing like people talk about like the Halloween franchise, like they're like these like diehard fans. Okay, have fun with your like fandom. That's its own thing. There's a complete difference between like liking movies and being like a fan of something. Like to me, there's like such a line there. So, and I think Greg kind of put it like this in the Clerks 3 review. Like he was happy that people were having fun, that they were seeing Kevin Smith, that they were into it. He felt that it was genuine, and that's fine. That's his thing. It's a whole other thing to be like, I like movies and I like cinema. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm never going to just be like blindly like, this is amazing, because what I like is actually like quantifiable, whereas like fandom is just like, I like this feeling, I like to be part of a group, and I like to be around people that are with me on this kind of journey that we're on. And Kevin Smith has been so good at cultivating an audience like that, and that's cool. But to me, it's like it's almost different, and it's apart from the film itself, which sounds like it sucks. And I'm like not surprised by that at all.
Yeah. Well, I do want to go into some like spoilery things for Clerks 3. I thought it was interesting. So spoiler alert to anybody. You've told me that you don't mind. So
no, and I have not seen any Clerk films. So
yeah. But and I thought it was interesting because in the Clerks 3 review, like they had spoiler reviews for like Halloween Ends and Decision to Leave, but they didn't for Clerks 3, even though I do think there's like major spoilers in it. But if you listen to the review, I mean, I think you can kind of deduce what happens. So I thought it was interesting that they did that. But yeah, so in Clerks 3, the film takes like a major emotional turn. and like the main character Dante ends up dying of a heart attack, and just like of a broken heart essentially, because like his girlfriend from Clerks 2, who's played by Rosario Dawson, is revealed to have died in a car crash in the beginning, before the film, like years before. And like, it's just weird because Kevin Smith has taken this whole thing with his career where he's been known as like the guy who like cried every single trailer. And even though the movie is like still like, just ridiculous and dumb, like in terms of the humor for like 90% of the time, he tries to put in this emotional stuff. And sometimes I think it can work. Sometimes I do think the emotion can work, but like he just, in my opinion, he went way too far. And but it's funny because in the review they were talking about the Q&A, and Kevin Smith like wrote like many different versions of this, like of Clerks 3 over the years. He's tried to get it made many times. And apparently an earlier version, he talked about this, was that he was going to have like the Clerks or like Randall and Dante like line up for a Ranger Danger movie, which is like some in-universe like thing. And then once they get into the theater, there's like an Aurora, Colorado like style mass shooting, and Dante is shot and killed, which is literally like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And like the fact that Kevin Smith would even think that's okay just like boggles my mind. But like even Jay touched on that. He was like, thank God that like didn't happen. Like, but that is just insane to me that he ever thought that would be okay. But luckily he didn't do it.
What do you think Kevin Smith's creative process is right now? Because I have to imagine a lot of it right now is like, I'll go to my accountant and I'll go to my money people, and they'll be like, you can make X amount of money by making a film for this budget and then spending this amount to four-wall it and rent out a bunch of theaters, and you'll be profitable here. So here is what your budget is. And you think that's basically then I'll just write within those confines to make a movie that I can myself four-wall and I'll be profitable. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that must be what his like approach is now.
I wouldn't say it's like, I think when he starts writing the scripts, he's doing purely from a creative place. I don't think he's trying to think about how much money he's going to make. I mean, I do think he's thinking like, can I achieve this? But like, I think when he just writes scripts, I think a lot of them don't even get made. But once he's done writing the scripts, then he approaches it from like, is it possible for me to even make this? How can I release it? Things like that. But I think all that stuff comes after he writes the script. From what I've heard, at least.
So
I listen to a lot of Kevin
so
Smith
then
podcasts.
how did you see the movie?
I saw it at a Fathom event screening. That's like a specialty, like a lot of it is like they've like played older movies, and like, so, like for example, like John Carpenter's Halloween will play on Halloween at like theaters everywhere for that night only. But recently they've done a lot of like they did The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, like the Terry Gilliam film, and they've released some like smaller like sort of director driven films. But they did Kevin Smith's previous movie, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. And but it's weird because it only plays for a couple nights. And then Clerks 3, I guess, had like a little bit more demand, so that was like a whole week. But it is weird to me that his movies don't get like a theatrical release anymore, like a standard theatrical release. It's just through these like specialty screenings, and then eventually it goes to VOD, or you can see it at these live events.
Because I'm just wondering where he's like getting the dough to even make these, or is he like putting up the money himself?
I think a lot of his dough comes from the podcasts and the touring and like the merch. I think a lot of it is touring, but yeah, I think he makes a lot of money off that. But then apparently Jay and Silent Bob Reboot did pretty well in terms of the Fathom event stuff. And I think they wanted him back to make something else. And he was like, I want to make Clerks 3, so let's do it.
So it looks like, as of right now, Clerks 3 was made for a budget of $7 million, and it's made $3.5 million in the box office. I have to imagine
those numbers, though.
I imagine that is just the Fathom events stuff, Because I don't think.
Yeah, I think so.
I think if you're just four-walling it yourself, you're not having to report that. You know what I mean? Because you're renting the theater and you're selling the tickets. So it's not going out anywhere other than literally they are doing it all. So I don't think you have to report that.
Because those tours, like where he's live, they're making a lot of money off of that. It costs like $70 for a ticket, or like at least 50. So I mean, I think they must be making a lot off of that.
What is the Kevin Smith fan in 2022? Like, do you think he's adding a lot of like younger people that are like relating to him? Or because when I was in high school, I had friends that were huge into Kevin Smith. I saw Red State when they four-walled it, so I've seen a Q&A with Kevin Smith. I left early. And like it was a very specific type of person. It was kind of near, in my opinion, the end of Kevin Smith being like a really big deal. So what's the audience now? Just like a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds that like want to relive their like college days?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of like 35 to 40 like bearded men. And I'm probably on the lower end or lower age end of Kevin Smith fans. I wouldn't call myself like a fan, but I do like him. But I'm 28 and I think that's probably on the lower end. So I don't see there being many like 20-year-old kids who are like into Kevin Smith.
Are your friends into Kevin Smith?
Not really. I mean, they're aware of his movies and they enjoy them to some degree, but I wouldn't say like they're into him. I mean, I'm probably the most into him out of anybody I know just because I listened to, and it was almost more from a podcasting thing that I got into him because I really enjoyed the Smodcast. In the old days, like I don't listen to it anymore, but like in like 2007 to like 2009, I listened to the Smodcast a lot and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, so I got into it from that, but I do enjoy some of his films, but I don't think that any of his films are like great per se.
So do you understand why Film Junk felt compelled to go spend their hard-earned money and time on a Clerks 3 screening and Q&A? I don't understand why it was something that they thought they should do.
It is a bit of a mystery to me. I mean, I guess on some degree they must have just wanted to see Kevin Smith, and because they always have had. I mean, Frank has made jokes about this, about how like Sean will like act like he's like hating on Kevin Smith, but like it's really coming from like a weird place of like interest. And yeah, it's somebody they've been talking about for a long time, and they did come up with that generation where like Clerks, the original Clerks and Mallrats were coming out when they were in high school, so. I think they are into him on some level, and I think they probably just wanted to see him live.
Huge missed opportunity not doing a road episode of Film Junk. Like it would have been really nice to have the whole experience recorded. Because I'm assuming Jay's just showing up in a Uber Black, like 2 phones. Hollywood's just talking to him, you know what I mean? And he's just going. And then it sounded like Reed, Sean, and Greg all just made the commute into the city themselves. I'm shocked at, again, Reed. How did they get him out of the house? I'm assuming they must have paid for his ticket and told him that they were paying for gas. But it sounded like Reed was having the time of his life. It sounded like he was outside of the portables, really just loving the view of Toronto, loving being in the big city. And again, like I think missed opportunity just not recording that whole experience. And I hope they do some road episodes soon. I'm assuming you love the road episodes.
Yeah, I do like the road episodes, so it would be good to hear them do that again, for sure. Yeah, especially with Reed there. I mean, it could have been good.
Yeah, let's hope I could see them making a run for the border or something like that. I mean, even a Ball Junk episode where they like went to a NFL game or something like that. Game Junk episode where they went somewhere video game related. Like, I just want more road episodes. Now that things are open, we might as well enjoy the freedom of the road.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. But do you want to jump into the number one topic, which is Halloween Ends?
Let's do it. I think we have a clip here. And of course, it's Reed's first opinions on Halloween Ends.
I just saw Halloween Kills a couple of days before Halloween Ends. And I really enjoyed Halloween Kills because you could tell that a filmmaker with style made it. In the way the shots were composed.
Filmmaker with style.
And Halloween Kills was well paced.
Just FYI, we are reviewing Halloween Ends. In case you forgot.
A great start there from Reed. Again, immediately derailing the conversation. Drew, were you satisfied with their take on Halloween Ends?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't like a big fan of the film. I originally gave it a 2, but then I rewatched it, and even the fact that I rewatched it so close to watching it originally made me give it a 0.5 bump to a 2.5. But I was, not flabbergasted, but I was very surprised to hear that Jay really liked it, and so did Frank. And I guess I kind of come to where Sean is a little bit. I mean, I probably like it less than him, but that's more where I'm at. But I just wasn't, I really like the first movie, and I really like Halloween Kills. But this one, well, I think they were trying to do something interesting. It just wasn't. I wasn't into it. I wasn't into the character. And I'll just give, Halloween Ends spoiler alert. But I wasn't into the character of Corey. To me, it felt like kind of like a Lifetime movie. That's just how I felt. And it doesn't, because I mean, you were talking about fandom and people feeling like this is an attack on I'm not getting enough Michael Myers and this and that. But that's not really. I just wasn't interested in the story they were giving me. I think there was good parts of it. I think the opening scene was good, but the way they explored it just seemed too on the nose. I don't know how to explain it other than that.
Yeah, I mean, I side with Greg and Jay on this one. I was a big fan. This was
So one thing I have to say is just you've been referring to Frank as Greg.
Oh, have I really?
Yes.
It's been a long week. Frank. Wow. So Frank and Jay on this one, and I will stand. I think Halloween Ends is my favorite of the trilogy. That being said, I think it leads me to the question of when Film Junk goes against your opinion on a film, how do you feel about it?
I mean, it's interesting, and I'd rather have them like a movie that I dislike than dislike a movie I don't like or I do like. So there's that. But it's always interesting to hear a differing opinion. I didn't really agree. I don't really see what, because I guess I prefer Halloween Kills just because to me it was more of a genre exercise, just some pure genre, which is more of what I enjoy. And it still did have some of those themes, but it was something different from the first David Gordon Green film, where I think that was more of a standard reboot in my mind. And then Halloween Kills got a little bit weird, and there was a lot of funny stuff, and there were some interesting themes, but then there's all these elaborate kill sequences. But this one is more stripped back, and maybe that's a good thing to some, but I don't know. I thought the romance was really cheesy to me, and I don't know. I just wasn't into it. But I did think, I've heard people say if I wanted to watch a movie where there's no Michael Myers, I would just watch Halloween 3. But that's not how I feel at all. I mean, I think there was enough Michael Myers and he was there. But so that's not my issue. It's just that I wasn't really into the story.
Yeah, it put you in an interesting spot because it seems like there are people that they just hate the trilogy, full stop. They hate every single one of the films. Then it seems like there are people that like the first one enough, hated Halloween Kills, and then hated Halloween Ends. And then it seems like there are people that didn't like the first two and then liked Halloween Ends. So it puts you in an interesting spot where you're like a fan of the series, but then this was just like not satisfying, I guess, to you. I mean, the big thing for me is this is like huge populous entertainment, and it's got us talking and it's got people talking in a way that nobody does anymore. You know what I mean? And that's like a big thing. Like a Michael Myers movie, which is like the biggest, like, just cash grab, like whatever franchise. There's no, in my opinion, you can't be sacred about any of the like Halloween's, Friday the 13th, Nightmare. They've been they're all just like moneymaker, huge franchises that have been exploited to the ends of the earth. So the fact that we're even discussing like there's talks about like the way that they're addressing like real world issues and morality and then character and all that stuff. I think it's just cool that they've been able to get people to talk no matter where they fall on the films. I think the only issue that I think I take with anybody's opinion is if it's just like completely writing this off as like, oh, they hate the fans, end of story, right? Like, I think if you watch David Gordon Green talk, if you watch interviews with him, he's like a genre film fan. He understands genre very well, and they just really kind of went different directions in all three films, and I think that's cool that they did it.
I do think that's cool.
I don't think that any of them are perfect, but I'm excited to like rewatch them. And I was like surprised at how much I just vibed with Halloween Ends. I think it's looked the best of the trilogy. I think the characters were kind of the best. There was the least kind of like weird asides in it, and I'm a big time David Gordon Green fan, like huge. And kind of like Reed, I was kind of surprised. Unlike Reed, well, maybe more so, I remembered that his name is Rob Zombie.
Like, who would have expected David Gordon Green to like reboot the series after Zombie? Ralph Zombie. Ron Zombie? What's his name?
Ralph Zombie.
Rod Zombie. Is it Rod? What is his name? It's driving me crazy now.
Robert Zombie.
No, that didn't sound right.
Rob Zombie.
Is it Rob? Dracula! That's a stupid first name.
Bob Zombie.
So, Drew, what would your ideal Halloween film be? Pitch me right now.
I don't know. I mean, I really liked Halloween Kills a lot. I'm gonna say that's my ideal Halloween film. It's not that it's perfect. I really like that one. I like Halloween 3 just for how weird it is, and I like the original. Those are my cornerstones.
So Halloween Kills, just because it's like merciless, just like lots of crazy kills in that one, and just kind of dark, like very dark and kind of nihilistic.
Yeah, a little bit. And like, I think the thematic stuff is there. I mean, a lot of people didn't like the hospital stuff, but I like that stuff where like the mob is just going crazy in this hospital. And I heard David Gordon Green talking about like in a behind the scenes thing that he just wanted to be like propulsive, like it's just moving very fast. And I definitely got that vibe and I enjoyed it. And like, that was something I didn't like about the new one is that I felt like it was moving very slow, but not like too slow. It's just like, it was different energy from the other one, but like, I mean, they were going for something different, but I just wasn't into the story in that case.
Honestly, it kind of felt like it was like if Snow Angels was about like a serial killer. That's kind of how I would like describe that. And you're totally right about Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills, for whatever reason, people got it became a meme where it was like evil dies tonight, and they like kept throwing that in people's faces as like, oh, it's so stupid. But I think that's the point. Like the whole movie was suggesting that these characters were not acting in any way that we should be like, oh, this is so cool that they're screaming "Evil dies tonight." Like it created a standing ovation style mob, and mobs are horrible, terrible things. And that's what I give credit to DGG for, and the writers in regards to. They explored, I think, pretty much at an exhaustive level, the ideas of what happens after an event like a Halloween event where there's like mass killings. You know what I mean? How do people get over it? How does a town get over it? And the fact is, either make the choice to change and not let it consume your life, or you let it consume your life, and that's where we end up in our like real world situations.
Yeah.
So I think these are going to be of their time. I think they are going to see like a life for a long time. I think they sum up the period that they were made pretty well. And I don't think there's any, at least franchise horror, that really like the sequels work as well as these do, despite their flaws. I don't think any of these are perfect films. It's going to be really interesting to see DGG tackle The Exorcist with which he's saying is a completely different writing approach that he had with Halloween. So we'll see what he ends up doing with that series.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely interested to see it. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of David Gordon Green, and even if I'm not like in love with all of his movies, I do like a lot of them. I'm always interested to see what he does next. So I'll always be there.
Yeah, he's probably. I mean, it's a easy comparison. Like Richard Linklater is probably the closest like comparison to another filmmaker that I would make for him. Even though he kind of he's gone way further into like kind of Hollywood films. Even though I don't think any of his comedies are necessarily straightforward. Like they all have a little.
Well, I'd
bit
almost
of
say
edge
that
to
Gordon
them.
Green is more Hollywood.
No,
Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like Richard
I see,
Linklater never made like a Pineapple Express. Like yes, School of Rock and that type, and his Bad News Bear remake. But I feel like David Gordon Green went further than Linklater into the kind of Hollywood sphere. That being said, it seems like DGG takes care of pretty much everybody that he went to film school with. Like a lot of the writers are people that he knew that he brings on. Apparently his crew is pretty much the same no matter if he's working on commercials or working on Prince Avalanche or working on the Halloween stuff or The Exorcist. And I think that's super admirable. And he's just always a filmmaker who I think his only misstep was Our Brand is Crisis, which was just a terrible movie. I think I'm always super excited about what he's doing. I think if you listen to the Film Junk non-spoiler, I think it's conveyed that they are all, for the most part, interested in David Gordon Green's kind of body work and what he has to do. But if you didn't listen to the spoiler, you're missing out on a certain rant that Reed goes on here, picking apart David Gordon Green's writing and a certain trope that he chooses to play with. And let's take a listen to that right now.
Well, he does ride a motorcycle.
Yeah.
That's right.
I've had that experience in university where there's the guy who rides the motorcycle, gets to have sex with the girls. And then watching the girls coming out of the guy's room crying because the guy dumps her after having sex with her. I have witnessed that.
This
personally.
is about trauma.
My trauma. Well, another thing is that at the nurses, the head nurse getting promoted because of the sleazy boss, and she like going over to with the boss. That seems out of place too, because females don't do that nowadays, right? Or that it's not accepted as proper behavior for a female nowadays. It just seems like all these things seem like they're old ideas.
I know what you're talking about.
You know,
it's an old idea.
Yeah.
If anything, it's a new idea that it's okay. That, you know, like, let's embrace it. Let's use whatever we've got to get ahead in life. No?
There's something's up. Something is up.
But, you know,
Drew, where do you stand? Do you stand with Reed? Do you hate bad boys, or do you think bad boys are just what life's all about?
I don't know. I don't have like a strong stance on it. I mean, it's kind of a cliched thing to get hung up on, but it's interesting to hear about Reed's trauma, for lack of a better word.
Like, I'm just interested. Like, he watched a couple go into a bedroom, then he stayed there during the entire night, and then observed the woman leaving the room crying because the bad boy broke up with her after having the sex. And that seems a little bit more suspicious to me. And that's
him just sitting outside of somebody's room all
that's
night,
some bad boy. That's some bad boy behavior right there. So it seems
some creepy
like
boy behavior.
So
although I don't know that he was being fully, I would doubt that happened exactly how he's saying it. He's probably just having some fun there.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but I think we should probably bring an end to this episode. I hope everybody enjoyed going over this most recent episode 868, and it was a juicy jumbo of an episode, and I had a lot of fun going over it with you, Drew.
Yeah, I did too. Thank you. Yeah, it was a great episode.
So should we plug next week's spooktacular episode?
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So next week we're gonna, have a big Halloween vibe episode and do a Halloween show. So, get ready for that. It should be fun.
Get ready for that. Shoot us a line if you want to talk about something or participate. Mouthbreathersradio@gmail.com, or reach out, direct message Drew at all hours of the night. He will accept them.
Yeah.
And
yeah, go ahead.
And without further ado, I am FilmApe.
And I'm Drew.
And we're going to say, talk to you later.